think we're live again. I'm going to give it 3 seconds, 2, 1. You're on, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Angela.
And I'm Christopher. Welcome back, my good friends. How are you? And welcome to
The Dinosaur Omelet.
The Dinosaur Omelet. That's us. That's our little, our name for a small homestead here in southern Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Right? What is going on, guys? What's happening that's new? I'll tell you, it's getting cold.
Especially
at least
at night.
here where we are. We're having a cold break all of a sudden, right? Yeah, it's been chilly. So the temperature's changing and the kids are getting back to school and everybody's getting ready for the change of fall.
Even though September usually is pretty warm. Hi, Shannon.
Usually. Well, then we have what they call late summer.
Yeah, next week's supposed to get a little warm again, but night times.
So tonight we're talking about the many myths of chicken keeping, of chickens. The many myths we hear about different things, goofy stuff we hear about chickens. I don't know why I'm cluster cussing this up. So we're going to be talking about the many myths of keeping chickens and the things we hear. And this is kind of a fun subject. It's not really a huge academic thing, but I want to do a fun one for a change. And if you guys know any weird myths about chickens, drop them in the comments, because I would like to hear some stuff. We have some. We got like 15 or so, 10, 15, whatever. But if you have a cool one, let me see. Oh, Bill's there. Hey, Bill.
Hey.
And Susan's here. Hi, Susan. Hello, hon. How are you doing? All right, so a little bit about us to anybody new who happens to be staggering through the internet and seeing this, right? So we're Dinosaur Omelet. It was small, a hatchery / we're a homestead. We grow food here, and we're in southern Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and we specialize in the wonderful jumbo Coturnix quail, and Angela specializes in the wonderful
Fluffy, silky chickens.
Fluffy, silky chickens she raises.
They're for fun and to offer people pets because they are they are known as the best breed for pets because they're cute and cuddly, low energy, calm, docile. You can pick them up and cuddle them, and little kids can interact with them too.
They're very good animals. Are there any good myths about silky chickens?
I'd have to, let me get back to you on that. I'm not sure.
I'm going to make one up right now. Here's a myth about silky chickens. That's not fur. It's actually feathers. It's a different type of feathering.
Yes, you do need more silkies.
Everybody needs more silkies. You get a silky addiction. So yeah, so we specialize in those two things. Now, new people. I think I'm going to do a quail video next week. But new people, these are quail eggs. So what is a quail? If you don't know what a quail is, there's a bunch of information down in the description of the video. You can download our PDF question and answer thing.
It was an illustration of quail.
Yeah,
that Christopher did.
They're little birds. That anyway, they're about the size of grapefruit. The jumbo Coturnix quail, exceptional food producers, eggs and meat. In fact, you ate quails again tonight.
I did. Yes, very yummy.
Quail on salad greens. Anyway, so these are their eggs. Let me pull an egg out of here. So these eggs, people say, oh, their eggs are tiny. Well, yeah, compared to a chicken, but the way you raise them, they become quite lucrative in egg production. You know, you do have an abundance of egg production in a very small space. But 3 of these cute little eggs is equivalent to about 1 large, regular old chicken egg. So 3 of those is one of these. And this is what the quail eggs look like. I'm not going to go in depth about the nutrition density with these eggs or too much about the quail, but it's some interesting stuff. Please stalk for free on our YouTube or our Facebook page. We have a ton of fun quail stuff and information we put together about that. Right? I think that just about does that fun intro. So if you're new here and you want to help a guy out in the struggle, hit the sub button because we always like having new people out here. And we do actually try to produce useful information, not just nonstop goofballism.
Like just yapping. We try to make it helpful.
That's not a popular product. The internet and YouTube and all these social media platforms, self-education and development is not very popular. It's a very niche thing, but it's good for you guys because if you're a homesteader and you're interested in this stuff, that population of people is usually pretty self-driven, and they actually go out and they seek out information to how to and do it themselves.
Shannon says, my bonus son in Utah has quail. I'm not sure how many. He started that recently. Oh, okay.
Cool. You should talk to them. They're cool little critters. That's our, yeah, you guys have taught us a lot. Lot in capital letters. You two people on the other screen, a
Good.
lot with the capital letters. Yeah, so we try to do a lot of education stuff. And down in the description of these videos, we always link, like print out PDF stuff. Real fun, easy to read stuff. I write it for the kids, for the family, so it's friendly, family-friendly stuff to read.
Mm-hmm.
And easy to understand. So you don't have to go nuts trying to learn a subject. It shouldn't, especially today, subjects should be presented succinctly and clearly. People do not want to sit and read thick manuals when it, you know what they say, why did we have this meeting when it could have been an email? That kind of thing. You don't need to spend hours doing something when it can be done briefly. But, in that note, let's start this thing we're going to do for hours, which is our longer form.
I mean, unless you're doing it in like a story form layout. People like hearing stories, so oftentimes they'll sit and listen. If it's even if it's not like super thrilling, but some people are really good at telling stories.
This is true. Do I tell those stories?
Well, I mean, and that's the way our language
stories all day long.
has developed from hundreds and hundreds of years of sharing information through storytelling. Anyway, yeah, your topic.
All right, our topic tonight is the many myths of chickens, which there are, and they're kind of fun and they're kind of goofy, and a lot of you guys may probably be like, "Oh, who thinks that?" or "Oh, I thought that." You're gonna get one or the other. I don't know. I started out with this first one. Do you want to do the first one, or should I? Or you can do it. I talk too much. Ladies and gentlemen, Angela.
Chickens are low maintenance pets. And,
Is that true?
I think this can go either way depending on the type of chickens you have, how you view your chickens, if they're your pets.
It's supposed to be a myth.
Well, maybe, why don't you start it and let me add on.
That was supposed to be a myth.
Well,
you're sitting going, but please
because
continue.
some people who don't really think of them as pets and don't really take care of them well, just let them loose, and then if something eats them, something eats them.
Well, they're doing that wrong.
Yeah, that's not a lot of maintenance. But if you're caring for them, properly, you're meeting their needs, then yeah, there's gonna be.
They're not goldfish.
Yes, like you want to make sure their areas are kept tidy, their coops are kept clean. It doesn't have to be like eat your dinner on the floor clean, but just to keep. Manure buildup down.
Well, I put that in there as number one because a lot of people, when they 4 years ago, when everybody started getting sick, they started getting chickens, and a lot of people are like, oh my god, I want to have chickens. It's gonna be so cute.
Or really easy. And it's not that they're not easy. It's just they're an animal that's alive that needs.
And people didn't realize that there's a little more work involved than just buying a cute little chicken house and feeding them.
Yeah, cleaning and maintenance. Making sure you're tending to feed and making sure there's no waste on the floor because on the grounds you don't want to attract rodents. That's a huge headache. Also making sure they're safe in their coops and their runs from predators.
And it's getting in the predator season, people. It's fall. Animal behaviors are changing. They're going to start sniffing around for food in different places where they weren't in the summer, and you're going to have new predators coming around at night. Yay!
So, yeah, the myth of them being low maintenance. Not that they're like high maintenance. It's just, you want them to be healthy and happy and cared for. So there are needs that need to be met.
Correct. Precisely. Yeah. Especially, with your chickens. Anyway, moving on to number 2. I like this myth, and I'm going to talk about this one. People believe chickens can live off of the trash, like the table scraps. I'm just going to feed them table scraps all day. Well, nah. So here's the deal. We developed a feed, and I'm not going to get into the whole sales pitch about our high-quality feed that really is beneficial for the chickens, but we really understood the nutritional needs of chickens. So when we're feeding off of table scraps, a couple things are happening. One, nutritively deficient. You're not going to get them all the nutrients they need. And number 2, more importantly, also, you could be introducing substances that aren't good for the chicken, that might even be toxic. Okay, certain foods, certain kinds of things like I just did a video on this, onions, green tomatoes, potato skins, things like this can be introduced in their diet from the table scraps, and you can harm the birds. Secondary to that, like I said, you're not getting the full nutrition, right?
Right, and this again is if is the idea of feeding them table scraps only without any other foods.
Now, what do chickens eat naturally? Remember? Red jungle fowl?
The bugs?
Yeah.
You
So,
were prompting.
I always like talking about this. Well, I like talking about this. The chicken, the domesticated chicken, comes from the red jungle fowl, just the Gallus, and we have Gallus domesticus. And the red jungle fowl, what do they eat? They're eating what they find in the wild. So their digestive tracts.
Yep, they're going to be
designed for
eating
that.
plants and even rodents and snakes and lizards, like whatever they can get.
So yeah, so as they're caretakers, they're not free ranging. It's a trade-off. No chickens, you don't really get the wild diet that you had back when you lived in the forest. Sorry, dude. However, you're not getting eaten by predators, and you can hatch eggs in safety. Nobody's eating your eggs. So the humans are helping you a little bit. Unfortunately, we have to feed you now. I'm not going to feed you table scraps, but I'm actually going to feed you a diet that's going to supplement what you should have been eating out in the wild that you no longer get. Make sense?
And to be clear, it is okay to feed them table scraps.
Yeah.
But
just make sure you know what it is.
As long as you're not giving them anything that's bad for them, and that you're giving them proper nutrition, and the scraps is just extra. Yeah.
And not too much junk food. Okay. Number 3, that's what a lot of people
Roosters
believe.
are necessary for egg production. They are not. A hen is going to lay her eggs if she's a lone hen, if she has multiple hens, if there's a rooster present, if there's not a rooster present, she's going to lay her eggs. She's designed to lay her eggs. The rooster's job is to fertilize the eggs. So and what that means is if you want to hatch chicks, that would require a rooster to fertilize. You need a boy and a girl.
Who would have thought? That's something else.
But I don't think you have this
Thank you.
myth on here. Many people wonder, is it okay to eat fertilized eggs? Yes, you're not eating a baby chicken.
Well, that's right. I hear that a lot.
This is very common. What's going on is the egg is fertile, but there's no growth yet unless it is being incubated or the hen is consistently sitting on the egg. Then that will kickstart the growth process, and that's when the baby starts growing. But even if maybe a hen sits on it a couple days, or maybe you put them on your countertop, the eggs on your countertop during the summertime, and it's like 80 degrees, you're not going to end up cracking that egg open and seeing a baby chick developing. What you're going to see, if it's a fertile egg and it's been consistently exposed to high temperatures, but not high enough for proper development, and that would be 99.5 degrees consistent, what you may see is just a blood spot or a blood speck.
And that's fine too.
And that just means that the fertilized egg,
You might go, ugh.
it got kick-started from the warmth, but then just immediately died. So it's totally okay to eat fertilized eggs because you're not eating a baby. It's still an egg. But no, you do not need a rooster for egg
people,
production.
I hear that frequently. Like, do I need a rooster? If you guys raise chickens, you've heard that before. Maybe even thought it when you first started.
Let me mention though, roosters, there are pros and cons to having roosters if having a rooster is an option for you, depending on your location, your area. Roosters, if it's a properly behaving rooster, some roosters can be overly aggressive, or just like after the hen's a little too much. But average roosters, which is the most of them, they'll keep harmony within the flock a little better. Sometimes, depending on the type of breed chickens you have, the hens, sometimes you might have some dominant or high-strung personalities within the flock of hens, and they may squabble occasionally. Sometimes if there's several dominant hens, you might see frequent squabbles because there's just like the hierarchy. They're challenging the hierarchy where they sit in the flock. So a rooster, the rooster will tend to interject himself and kind of like discourage this, or at least discourage prolonged disturbances among the ladies. We were just talking about how ladies can be catty. But anyway, it's like
I
cross
wasn't talking
species.
about how ladies can be catty. I'm
It
very
was a
respectful.
separate, completely
I'm a highly respectable
different
man.
conversation. But the male, the rooster, he will jump in, and sometimes if a correction is needed, he might like do a quick peck on the one that's pushing too much. But if it's like my silky roosters, they're just so mild-mannered. They'll go over and they'll be like, "Hey, ladies," and they'll do like a rooster dance around them, like trying to woo them. And I'm just like, "Listen, buddy, this isn't helping." They just ignore him. Anyway, also, if you don't have a rooster, sometimes on rare occasions you may experience a hen make a crowing type sound. It doesn't sound exactly like a rooster, but it's not what a hen should be doing. So sometimes when the dominant rooster isn't there, a hen will feel the need to fill that role, and she will make like a crow sound in early time of the day. And then often that'll subside and stop.
So the chick starts acting like a dude?
It's just the dominant role. And so the male does help balance them. Now, they'll be fine. If you don't have a rooster, they'll be fine. But also roosters do help with predator detection. They're always looking much more often than the hens. The hens do look, but the roosters are always looking for potential predators. And then he'll alert the hens. And then also if a predator or hawk comes in to attack, if it's a good rooster and not a coward, he will run after the predator and
scare the predator off.
Yeah, scare them off. So there are pros to having them, but the flock of hens, they will settle and work things out if you don't have one.
And they'll still lay eggs, and you'll still get eggs. And Susan left us a question. We're using phones, so I always got to walk up to the phone.
And this is on the Facebook.
Yeah, glad it's a consistent temp. My, what's it say, swamp cooler was accidentally off today, and when I went, it's 4 p.m. My quail aviary was 103.
My swamp cooler was accidentally off today, and when I went out at 4 p.m., my quail aviary was 103. Wow. Yeah, you have a...
She lives in a very warm part
area
of the country.
Yeah, she has a system, which she calls her swamp.
Oh, there's our friend Sophie. Hello, Sophie. Thanks for coming in. You don't have to stay. We're talking about chickens. But you could get some for your house down there.
Anyway, so that's about roosters.
Yeah, that's about roosters. Oh, by the way, dear, we're talking about the many wonderful myths like legends about chickens. So any of you new dudes who are coming in here, if you have a question about any of this fun stuff, or if you've heard one of these particular myths yourself that you'd like to ask about or share, drop it down in the comments. Mm-hmm. All right, number whatever. Chickens don't feel cold in the winter, or the cold doesn't affect your little birds. In fact, chickens are very well adapted to the cold. This is true. However, you know, they're not sea lions. The cold can affect them. They're going to get cold in extreme conditions, extreme temperatures. That's where you want to have an appropriate coop, right, with ventilation.
Ventilated but not drafty. There's a big difference.
Yes, these animals, they're very hardy to the cold, but they're not impervious, you know. So you have a chicken in a coop with a couple of friends. It's, 3 degrees out. They're fine. They're doing good. They're chilled out. They got their feathers and they're
bundling together.
You take that same chicken and you sit it in the middle of the yard in a cage, he's going to freeze to death.
Yeah, with the wind.
Right.
Yeah. So cold temperatures, remember you want to increase their feed, the amount of feed you're giving them, so that because they're using more energy to maintain their warmth. So they're going to need their feed increase so that they can have more food to sustain their temperature.
They're eating to get their blubber low, their fat layer.
Yeah, you may want to give them some corn, add some corn to their diet, because that'll add a layer of fat, which will give them more.
They start working out in the spring anyway, so you know.
And then also with the ground, they can get frostbite if they're walking on ice, or like snow that melts and then freezes again is crunchy. So make sure you clear out snow, like an area for them to go in. They don't usually like to go in the snow. They'll kind of just stay at the coop door.
Hide.
Yeah, so clear an area out for them to walk in. Maybe put down some straw if need be, so that they can be walking on that if the temperatures are going to stay cold. unless the snow's going to melt and then clear out pretty quick. Do you have anything about the heating, or is that in this topic?
No, I didn't mention anything else about heating, but that's
Yeah,
actually,
that a lot of people.
I may mention that area. Yeah, see.
Oh, okay. Should I wait?
No, we'll mention it now because we're talking.
Okay.
So the other myth that goes with this one is that coops need to be heated in the winter.
Yeah, people think because we're cold.
Wait a minute. I got to give some education
go
to
ahead.
totally non-chicken people, if Sophie's watching. Coop means little chicken house. It's
where
a
they
house.
sleep on
Yeah,
land.
where they chill out. It's their house.
And the run is usually like an area that's open, attached to the coop. It's like the pen.
It's not like a tread area, like they're competing in an actual run. It's called a run. It's just a yard.
And
Yard
free
space.
range is when you let them out of the area that they're cooped in.
Get to smoke cigarettes,
they're in the
lift
yard,
weights, hang out with the
completely
other
free.
prisoners. All right, so that's out of the way. So the other myth, the myth was chickens need heat in the winter because it's so cold.
Added heat.
Like a heating element or whatever. Fireplace.
Yeah. So, like Christopher mentioned, they are equipped to handle the cold. What they do is if it's super cold, they'll fluff their feathers out. And what that does is it creates this like a gap between their skin and the interior of their feathers. And the heat will move around and keep them insulated and warm.
Are you suggesting that this natural organism was somehow designed to actually live in the elements of cold?
They sure
Who would have thought? This is amazing. I'm learning. Yeah.
And if there is a heating element added during a winter setting where it's cold, what can happen is people will put them in the coop where they're sleeping. So then the coop they're sleeping in is warm, and then they'll go out into the cold of the winter during the day. That can be a shock to their system. It could compromise their immune system. It could put them at risk to having a respiratory illness, which is the most common type of illness among birds. So you want to make sure they're healthy and strong all year long. If for some reason you lose power and the heating source suddenly turns off, that can also shock their system. But in general, they're designed to handle the different elements. Now, if it's super, super cold, obviously you want to have a windbreak where they're going. If they're going outside, have a windbreak area, they can get away from the wind. Maybe add some bedding layers in the coop just to kind of insulate it a little better. Maybe put some plastic or some sort of insulation on the coop if need be, depending on where you're located.
I think, yeah, and honestly, extreme summer heat is probably much more of a danger than winter cold.
Yeah, you definitely want to have buddies. Don't have a single chicken. I wouldn't recommend 2 chickens. I would have a couple chickens together in cold situations so then they can bundle because they definitely keep each other warm.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of you guys, your objective is you're producing eggs, right? They may be pets, but you also want eggs. So you don't want to stress their system, and then they have to have this whole reacclimation period if they're, they get sick or injured.
And let me mention this, the ventilation and draftiness topic real quick. Ventilation, usually you have like some airflow from the top of the coop, and what that will do is just move the air around so that they're breathing fresh air. Just pretty much like they're not cooped up in a stuffed box. And draftiness is more of an uncontrolled flow of air that's typically too much. What can happen is if it's drafty, then it can chill them. There's not really control of the temperature in the coop itself.
Yeah, you just want an exchange of air. We talk about this a lot because the worst thing is having a sealed box. Mm-hmm. Intuitively, as humans, we're like, oh, well, if it's really cold out, I want my room to be as airtight as possible. Mm-hmm. Well, you're a human. You're not a chicken. When you do that with chickens, especially a group of them, we talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
They respirate. Mm-hmm. They respirate a lot of water vapor.
Creating moisture in the air.
Their bodies are already warm. They're warmer than our bodies. So now
they're eliminating. They're going to the bathroom in their coop space.
No, we still do that in rooms when we're
which is going to create pneumonia and
disease building
so
substrate. So with that respiration, if the thing is totally sealed, you don't have any air to dry anything out. You don't have any air to take out that water vapor from their breathing, chicken breathing. So you have the perfect conditions for bacterial, fungal, and viral growth.
Yeah.
That's a bad thing. We don't like
disease.
So
Yeah.
good ventilation. We always talk about that because respiratory illness is extremely common and extremely preventable.
Yes. Yeah. So that's good.
That's good. Okay. Here's a fun one. Chickens are filthy, dirty animals.
Pretty much, I think any animal could
Has
be
the
filthy
potentiality.
and dirty. Yes, it just comes down to meeting their needs.
Everybody have babies out there?
Proper
I've raised
maintenance.
babies. They become filthy, dirty animals.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, now, so
So filthy are chickens filthy, dirty animals?
they are not. They do not want
You
to
know what?
be
I shouldn't have
infilled.
called this myths of chickens. I should have done like the Maury Povich thing. The lie detector determined that was a lie. Oh, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's a
okay.
lie. Chickens are not
Yeah.
filthy animals. If they're filthy, it's because you're not tending to their needs, which we talked about in myth number 1. They're not low maintenance
Yeah.
creatures. You need to clean out the coops and
Make sure their space is the proper size for the amount of birds that you have, the coop, and then also the run. Yeah, if it's a proper size, then and you're using bedding and maintaining it, then it'll be fine.
you may have to clip feathers if they get filthy, like with the puppies. If they're dirty.
What do you mean? Kind of like wash them a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on the breed, depends on
It
their
depends on the
plumage
bedding too.
and their bedding, yeah, and how you set up the coop. You know,
Yeah, right.
With your nesting boxes where you have chickens to lay eggs, right? If it's ground level, they're not doing any work, and they may be using that as a hangout, and they're going to track in more debris, manure,
Your
etc.
feet might get messy.
Dirty the
getting in.
eggs up, and so having a nesting box off ground level is preferable if possible. Ours are ground level or floor level, and it's never really been a problem. But we don't have a million chickens. We have enough. So chickens are not filthy, dirty animals. They can
But
be.
they can be, just like any other
Just like
creature.
any other creature here. Okay. All breeds are the same for laying eggs. Or basically, I think the myth or the misconception is, oh, I want chickens, and I impulse buy chickens for eggs. Why or why not? Is this a good idea? Angela.
So yes, just like other domesticated animals, there are different breeds that were bred specifically for certain purposes. Yes, chickens lay eggs, but the amount of eggs a breed lays is different. Like for example, silkies, their temperament, their demeanor, they go broody. They're like they like to be a mother, and they go broody often, maybe once a month or once every month and a half. So they tend to lay around 180 eggs per year per hen. Now, if you look at like a leghorn, it's a white chicken, the ones that you see in the factories.
And if you're from the 80s or before, they talk like this. Foghorn leg.
Oh, yeah, so leghorns or like black australorps or like a few other ones that are specific to like Rhode Island Reds. They typically tend to lay anywhere from 250 eggs to over 300 eggs per hen per year. And they don't really go broody, or if they do, it's not very long. And going broody means they're not laying any eggs anymore. They're just sitting in their nest because they want to be on eggs to hatch the eggs.
Just taking up space.
And then also there are chickens that are specifically bred for meat, like broiler chickens, and they're processed before they even mature. And they wouldn't really, they're bred to gain, they're bred to grow fast. So their bodies aren't really designed for long length of life. But then there's also breeds where they're heritage breeds, they're larger breeds, and they can be used for eggs and meat. So some of those larger breeds might take like 7 months to grow and lay their first eggs. Whereas the higher egg producer chickens that are a little smaller, they may be laying eggs as early as 5 months or 6 months.
From when they hatch. So
Yes.
5 months of age from hatching.
So they are not all the same.
They're not all the same in their output. They're not all the same in their production. They're not all the same in their egg production lifetime. Which means like you're going to get 2 years worth of production, 3 years worth of production
Right.
consistently.
Yeah.
So some of them age out sooner than
Yep.
others too. So a little bit of research, a little bit of, call up the friends who have chickens, ask for some tips or advice on what kind of critter to get to satisfy your egg goals.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And then the amount of eggs. Like some people will be like, oh, I really want a lot of eggs. Let's get 15 chickens. That's a lot of eggs for 4 people.
It sounds like, so you're like a dozen eggs, 12 chickens equals a dozen eggs. I think we eat about a dozen eggs every 3 or 4 days, so I get 12 chickens. You're going to be eating eggs nonstop because you get this backlog of eggs. Are we done eating eggs? We got more eggs coming in. Keep eating eggs. We're making quiche tonight. You're thinking of everything to do with your eggs. Pickle some eggs, boil some eggs, eat some eggs.
Think about like numbers and temperament and all that stuff.
If you want to do it right, actually legitimately look at your egg consumption over the period of a month or 2 in total.
Yeah.
And then do the math on that, because that'll give you a better
frame
of reference for what you're
generally
actually eating.
The hens will lay, a hen typically lays like 5 to 6 days per week. So she'll skip 1 or 2 days each week. And that's pretty typical.
Yeah, everybody needs time off. Okay, any other fun myths? I got a few more in here. Ooh,
do you have the color of eggshells in here?
No, Angela thought that one up. That's a good one. Or you didn't think it up. I guess you did think it up. you decided to add it, but we hear it a lot.
Yeah.
Here's a fun myth.
How would you word it?
Can I be the idiot? I'll be the idiot.
But no, I just don't know.
Well, I only buy brown eggs because they're healthier for me. They're healthier than white eggs.
And
is this a myth?
Yes, it's just a shell. You're not eating the shell, and there's no difference in the nutritional calcium and benefit of
I
the
have
shell.
a theory. I like doing like logic stuff, and like this makes logical sense to me. Why? I mean, it makes sense to believe that because everything brown versus the white version is the healthy version.
Yeah,
brown rice,
organic.
wheat bread, like naturally that brown egg has to have a ton of fiber and nutrients.
Or only those eggs those chickens at that farm. Those are the ones that are free ranging. If they have white ones, they're not free ranging. Like like that kind of idea.
So that is not true, huh?
No, and for anybody who may not know, there are different breeds of chickens that lay different colored eggs. Like there's rainbow, there's pink, there's different shades of blues and greens and dark brown. There's all sorts of really pretty colors. But no, it doesn't affect the taste or flavor of the egg at all.
Or the nutrient content.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, the nutrient. All right, chickens. Okay, here's a myth. Chickens, if you let them run loose, free range, they're going to destroy your garden. Do they destroy your garden? Well, I mean, they peck, they scratch and peck. If you manage them properly, they're actually quite beneficial for the garden because they're aerating the soil, they're taking out pests. They're going to take out a lot of pests if you have a pest problem. They're going to fertilize the ground, and I'm telling you, chicken fertilizer is pretty magical. It's extremely potent and nutrient dense for the soil. And in fact, a good permaculture technique is to rotate the chickens into the garden for a season after growing to enrich the soil.
Yeah, they turn over the soil pretty well because what they really want are the bugs. They're looking for the bugs. Now, depending on your garden setup, I mean, it's possible they may disturb the garden or plants here and there with their like excessive looking for bugs obsession. But they're not going to destroy a garden. And yeah, they're just scratching.
If you have some pecky individuals, figure a way to prevent them from coming in, but most of them should be okay. And just manage them, watch them as they're, especially if you're introducing them, if it's something new.
Yeah, I would definitely, monitor your birds.
I mean, I wouldn't put them in with your seedlings.
Yeah, that's true.
So mature plants, they're going to
they can, there's a potential for them to cause damage, but they're not, their aim and goal is not to destroy the garden.
Our ducks did. Remember the Muscovies?
Yeah, so our Muscovy ducks, they went up to the tomato plants and they were eating the tomatoes. They were pulling the tomatoes off the vine and eating them. They were loving that. Yeah,
I didn't care about that. They ate my peppers.
Oh, so the Muscovies, they actually love foraging for bugs too, but if there is a garden, you want to watch how you have it assembled, like the fruits and stuff up higher, maybe 2 feet up so they can't reach it. Just the stem of the plant.
Yeah, they like,
or if you have
the ducks were
beds.
not. The ducks are extreme prolific hunters.
Yeah.
And they're going to forage for everything. But, you know, whatever. I'm not going to... They're ducks. You can't blame a duck for being a duck. All right. A couple more, and then we'll wrap it up, because it's getting there. Chickens are noisy. They're too noisy for keeping in your backyard. Are chickens noisy animals? Let's say I'm in an area that has, whatever, crazy neighbor or noise restrictions.
I would say they are kind of noisy.
Hens?
Yeah. Because hens, they have their egg song, and they're gonna say their egg song
I'm
every single
gonna
time
put
they
an
lay an
X.
egg.
This myth is going to be kept as
So
fact.
if you
Chickens
are
can be noisy.
in an area where you're not supposed to have chickens, and you're like, okay, guys, shh. All right, I'm gonna meet your needs. I'm gonna feed you all the grubs, and just be quiet, okay? If they make a peep, and you're just like, did the neighbor hear that? Then no, this isn't gonna work, because the hens do make a loud song when they.
I'm transitioning into a great sales spiel here. Oh, if your chickens are too loud, don't worry. You can always raise quail. They don't make any noise really if you have your right numbers. You can't even tell they're out there. They make these little peepee noises.
Now, if
the chickens do make some sounds.
Yeah,
the hen song. Can you imitate one?
No. Now, depending on the breed, some are louder than others. Like the Silkies they're not as loud as the bigger breeds because they're mini. They're mini chickens. Now, if you are in an area where you are allowed to have chickens, but you're trying, maybe you have chicken math. Maybe you fell victim to chicken math and you have like too many chickens now. You just kind of stop counting, and you just don't want to disturb your neighbors. Or maybe you have a grumpy neighbor. Now there are things you can do. There's things you can do to kind of work with the sounds that the chickens make. For example, a lot of hens will lay eggs in the morning. So perhaps you might want to leave them in their coop just a little longer to kind of encourage some of them to finish laying their eggs, make their egg song, and the coop itself will help muffle the sound some, then let them out. Some people will do like a fence, like some sort of like maybe wooden fence or some sort of fencing around the chickens, area to help the sound go up to bounce the sound up instead of letting the sound go out.
Oh, like the freeway walls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are the two things I can think of with hens. Roosters are roosters. They're going to crow. Some are louder than others. Some are more gentlemanly and will just crow once in a while. Some crow constantly, nonstop. If your rooster hears the rooster down the road that way and up the road that way, then they're going to be competing with each other. This one down there goes, then yours is going to respond to him. That one up there goes, and yours again will respond to him because they're territorial. So roosters are roosters.
And if you're bored and you want to have some fun, look on the YouTube. Did you see the video where the guy had like 50 roosters?
He
had like
that were tied to
50 or 60 roosters.
Yeah.
And they just crowed all day long. And the guy took them to court and he sat there counting crows. Like how many times they crowed. He's like, well, it was 3,600 this day and then 4,000 the next. All day long.
Yeah, he bred roosters and he had them. Yeah. I think that was like.
He had to close his rooster patch.
Early 2000s, maybe late 1990s when this came out. But anyway, it was.
Insane. Okay. Do we have any other coolness in here? I think I'm almost done. I'll give one of my own. Chickens don't need veterinary care. Well, because they're small animals, or because you have a whole bunch of them,
or because they're hardy. The idea that they're hardy.
They're hardy. No, they do require occasionally. Obviously, if they're sick, it's best to have some kind of veterinary care, even if you're doing home care. So we always recommend a lot of home care and home treatments. And a lot of home treatments are going to satisfy the majority of common illnesses, right?
Yeah.
Coccidiosis or the rhinet.
Even respiratory issues, egg-bound. There's a lot of different things that there's information available online where people can they can find information on what to do, how to treat, and how to care. There are, a few things that may be out of like your comfort zone to handle medically wise. Even if you have chickens, like they're your pets, they have their names, you spend your certain time with them, sitting with them, like they're special for you, then if something happens and you feel not equipped to handle it, or perhaps you didn't notice there was something amiss with their health and they were deteriorating, and then it's to the point where something drastic kind of has to be done or they're going to perish, then there are vets that see poultry out there.
For sure.
Yeah.
And right now, the big thing with the vets is the HPAI, which is a highly pathogenic avian influenza. I'm sure you guys have heard about it if you have chickens. So you hear more and more of that, especially this time of year. You're going to hear about the avian sickness. I'm not trying to freak you out, but if you're going to a vet, they'll probably test for that, I'm sure. I don't know if they're required to. I'm not a vet. Nor am I giving
we're not vets.
Not vets. Nor am I giving veterinary advice. This is personal experience. But I don't know if the vets do a routine check for that or not. But I know with the large flocks they do. Anyway, side thing. So yes, they will require veterinary care in some circumstances, but luckily in many circumstances you can treat them at home, like when your child gets sick.
Yeah.
Pill A, B, or C,
and
television and soup.
There are quite a few poultry vet groups, like on Facebook, available, where there's like thousands and thousands of people on there, and a lot of them are professionals and they know what they're talking about.
You know who I ask?
ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's my doctor.
You can always
join.
You can always join these groups, and there's a search function in the groups, like most things, and you can type in whatever it is you're looking for, and if somebody's already asked about it, many people commented about it already and said, do this, do that, don't do this, here's medicine, here's why. That'll all pop up, and you can read, and be right away, have information. And then also, of course, you can ask questions and have people reply. But, yeah.
And best of all, you can take obscure, fuzzy pictures and ask people to identify it. That's the best. You ever see that? That's like 90% of them. What's this?
Anyway.
It's a chicken illness. Okay, next.
Yeah.
Okay, any more chicken myths?
Do you guys have any questions or thoughts or just things that you've heard and wondered about concerning chickens?
How many chicken myths can I have? Oh, we were dealing with one. Back in the year 1980 something, I contracted head lice from chickens, I think. So the question
because he would sit as a child, he would sit in the chicken coop.
Now, an educated person will tell you, no, that's not true. Lice are species specific.
Right.
Like I can't go catch lice from rubbing a chicken in my head. Otherwise, I would do it because I'd get off school. I'm like, oh, I got lice. Give me my chicken.
Oh my gosh.
But
he did have a lot of hair back then.
It was a different time.
But anyway.
But can a person contract lice from a chicken? I don't know. I'm going to say no. Although my experience was, I think what happened, there was such a high saturation of lice in this chicken house when I was a kid that they got into my hair. And my parents were flipping out. It was great. And they put boiling hot water on my hair and head to kill them.
Did they forget that you had skin in there?
Well, it was the 80s, you did home remedies. Boiling water,
I'm going to say it's possible that we do, well, I don't have any personal experience with this. You just said you have experience. Anyway, it's possible that you can have lice transfer to you, but I do not believe they thrive on our
It's a bad neighborhood.
bodies.
Not a good neighborhood, chicken lice. But your chickens shouldn't have lice because you're keeping your coops clean and you're keeping other birds out.
Right, so that's the thing though. People will feel like, oh my gosh, I found lice or mites on my chicken or in my chicken coop. Mites live in the coop, lice live on the birds. And that's like horrible of me. How could I let that happen? That's like my neglect. No. So the lice and mites, they come from wild birds. And chickens live outside unless it's your pet and you have a diaper on your chicken and it's inside. Some people like that. But if you have a bunch of birds, they're outside. And just occasionally little Tweety birds, they'll just, they go in the area once in a while. They see there's food, they see there's a water, there's bugs, whatever. So it's just from wild birds. So we do recommend, at least twice a year, spring and fall, clean your coop completely, spray it down well. We we recommend the Elector PSP. That's a concentrate. You just mix a little bit with water, and the actual product lasts a long time. Spray it everywhere. You can spray it on the birds, and it takes care of the lice and mites, and it takes care of all the stages of life. But anyway, yeah, if you see mites, if you see lice on the skin of the bird, then you're going to want to spray the bird down. But this is part of caring for them. Once in a while,
That's home veterinary care.
Periodically look at them, because you don't want to have them overrun, because it's a parasite, and they're not.
And then everybody
your chickens aren't happy to have them on them. Yes, if you see it on one bird, treat everybody.
Treat everybody.
It's manageable.
I thought of another myth, and this will be the last one. Don't you have to cut chickens' wings or they'll fly away?
Oh, that's a good one. Do they fly?
She smacked me. It was so good. I must have been, yeah. Do chickens fly?
Do chickens fly? I hear that often.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So chickens do not fly. However, there are some breeds. There's quite a few breeds that they use their wings to assist them in height. So they'll jump up.
Get up on top of the fence.
Because they're light birds. They'll use their wings and they'll flap up onto a fence or onto a tree branch, and then some of them like to roost. Well, a lot of them like to roost, but some of them like to be in trees. So they'll go from branch to branch to branch and up, but they will not fly.
That would be something I'd like to see, is a flock of chickens in formation, like migrating. I was like, there's the chickens. They're going south again. Yeah, but they don't fly.
No.
Yeah, they don't.
Now, the clipping of the wings, you might think, oh, well, I've heard that if you clip their wings, then they can't fly. So some people will be like, well, let's just clip both of their wings. And we're talking about clipping feathers, not like cutting their arms off. To be clear. Now, if you clip both wings, then they're able to adjust to that. And if you're trying to prevent them from like going over fences and such, they'll still be able to get up and over.
They like to roost in trees sometimes, too.
Yeah, so what you need to do is just do one side. And what that will do is it throws off the whole, like, when they're trying to flap, the wind movement around their wings. It throws them way off, and they can't lift properly.
It's like a motorboat going.
Yeah, and some of them are quite determined and may still hop up, but that typically takes care of it, just clipping one wing. And if it's a bird that is close, if she's mature, if it's a hen that's mature, she's laying eggs, typically you only have to clip their wings once a year, because once they hit in their growing stage up to like a year, they're going to be regrowing lots of feathers. So if it's a young bird, you may have to clip it several times. But once they hit like a year old, they're not actively growing feathers. And then once they hit 18 months, they're going to do a heavy molt. So they're going to shed a lot of feathers and regrow feathers. And then it'll be a molt once a year. So you just clip once a year.
That's bravo. Okay, awesome. Yeah. All right. My yapping mouth is probably done yapping. Is there anything else you'd like to mention, ma'am?
One last thing with the wings, the clipping of the wings. Somebody might ask, well, does that hurt them?
That's a good question.
And
if you clip too close.
Yes, if you look at a feather, that's growing in, and you look at the base of the quill, in the skin, you'll see pink going up. Like, let's say this is the quill, and this is the skin. You'll see some flesh going up in it. It's the blood. It's kind of like the quick on a cat or a dog nail. There's a quick in there, and if you clip too close, it'll bleed because there's blood in there. So I do recommend not clipping the feathers until after once the feather finishes growing. There won't be any more blood in there. It'll just, like, you can pull a feather out and it won't bleed. But there are different ways you can clip the feathers, but pretty much just since I don't have any photos or anything, just do a quick Google search. And all of the pattern of clipping is not close to the arm of the bird. It's a little further out, and that's enough to really throw off the balance. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right, I think that will wrap that up. Can I wrap that
Yeah, I
up?
think so.
I have some important laying to tend to.
If you're watching this in the morning, wherever you are, it's evening and we're ready for bed.
But if you're watching later and for some obscure reason you watch this whole video till the end, thank you very much. Awesome. Click the like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or stuff, stick them in the bottom. Oh, thanks, Susan.
Have a
Thank you
great
for
night
coming by. I
yourself.
hope you have a great night and it cools down out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you guys have any subsequent after this is broadcast questions, just leave them in because it always comes to me and I like to answer them. So leave them down there. Otherwise, thank you for showing up. We sure do appreciate it. I enjoy doing all the stuff to get these things ready. All right.
Have a great evening.
Yes, guys, I'm going to
everybody.
simultaneously push buttons and click out. We'll see you later.